Using the BCC Extruded EPS filter lets us take a simple vector file and do some great things with it directly within our editor. Now, just as we did with the text filters, all I'm going to do is create a new video track and bring in my BCC Extrude EPS filter over the top into the blank space, and that will automatically create a filler and apply my filter to that filler. The next thing I want to do is to tell the filter what file I'm going to be using. So I'm going to click down in external file here, and I'm going to pick my EPS file. I can either take an Adobe Illustrator version 8 or below file, or an Adobe Illustrator EPS file all the way up to Creative Cloud. And you'll find a full list of compatible file formats in the Effects help file. So I'm just going to take my logo 2 here and make sure that I have focus on the V2, and you'll see that I have a nice big black lump, and this, believe it or not, is actually very close to what the EPS file actually is. I'm going to come down into my front material here, find my preset, and I'm going to take let's have a look at the metal chrome, shall we? There we go. Or maybe actually a metal brushed metal. There we go. Cool. And again with the transformations, if I want to move it forward in Z space, I can do that with the position and the Z position here. But because I have built-in lights, if I move this too far forward, obviously the lights aren't going to be hitting my logo anymore. If it's just a case of me wanting to make this thing a bit bigger, guess what we're going to use? Yep, that's right, scale. There we are. So now, let's twirl up the transformations, and I'll take my extrusion depth down quite a bit, and I'll take my bevel amount as well down here. So we've just got a bit of bevel and a bit of extrusion going on. And if I zoom in just a little bit here, you see these circles here possibly aren't as sort of curvy as you'd like them to be. Well, that's easily changed, just as it was in the other text, by going into the render and turning the polygon count up. If we turn the polygon count up, that smooths out those edges, obviously at the bit of a rendering cost that you're paying for it. So my advice is to keep the polygon count down low until you're happy with the rest of the effects and what you're doing with it, and then you can turn it up high to get the full quality that you need before you take it out. Now, all of these controls work in exactly the same way as they did with the extruded text and the BCC type on as well. So once you've mastered one, then you don't have to do any more thinking to get the rest of them done. And that includes things like the lights. So we can come in, we can have multiple lights set up. Let's change the intensity of the second light down a little bit. We can change the position, the Z position of this light as well as interactively changing the X and Y position of it, and any of the deformers that we were using before. So again, we can use something like maybe the curl deformer if that's what you're after. To curl that all around. And that's showing how big our extrusion actually is. Let's maybe take the extrusion depth down a fair amount there. And just to show you this is properly 3D, I'm going to come back into my transformations and rotate it round in Y. So you can see we are working properly in 3D directly within our NLE. So with full interactivity going on there. And of course, all of this stuff can be animated up, and if you want motion blur, back into the render exactly where you found it before in the other effects, and enable motion blur there. And that's a quick overview of how you use the Extruded EPS filter in Boris Continuum Complete.